And now let's welcome our village trustee candidates to the stage. We have we have 4 trustees running for 3 spots, and we'll start with Chris Aiello, Albert Bolthus, Donald Case, and Bradley Phillips, who could not be with us this evening. We also have 3 candidates that are going to run to fill an unexpired 2-year term. That will be Diane Blair Sherlock, Nick Cazzone, and Kathy Sewell. So welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
The questions that we have for you this evening, we're going to give the same questions to all of the candidates. And we'd like to remind you all and everyone that's here tonight and that's watching that these were questions that were pre-submitted and that we will be taking no questions from the audience this evening. So the first question, before we start the questions, I'll actually let you all introduce yourselves. That might be helpful. So we'll go ahead and we'll just go right down the line and we'll start with Chris. We just want you to introduce yourself and please let us know how long you've lived in Villa Park and why you're choosing to run or rerun for village trustee.
And thanks for being here, and thanks for the Women's Club for having us. Chris Aiello, been born in 64, so I'm now officially 50. I get the AARP now. And lived here most of my life. I didn't live here for about 6 months. So been here forever, and moved here in November of 64. And I do this because someone's got to do it. And it seemed like a good way to contribute to the village and try to have some mild nominal interest or influence in what's going on to the extent that you can have influence as a board member. And I was told I have to run for 2 terms because it's not fair to only run for 4. So that's why I'm running for a second set of 4, because you have to, because you owe that.
All right. We'll go ahead and Al.
Yes, I'm Al Bolthus, and my wife and I and my family have lived here for 28 years. We moved here in the year of the big flood, which was 28 years ago in August. My wife and I have been married for 43 years. We have 3 children. Grown children, one of which is married and has purchased a home here in Villa Park because he liked the community so much he stayed. I've been on the village board for 8 years now, finishing my 2nd term. This will be my 3rd term. And some of the reasons I ran for the village at 8 years ago, if you remember back then there was a lot of controversy on the board and not a whole lot of things seemed to be getting done. There wasn't a lot of camaraderie, and that just couldn't go on. And I had a number of issues that I also wanted to bring up. I had done some research, and I was, when I went around knocking on doors, talking to residents, I wanted to bring up some issues about crime-free housing in Villa Park. That's one issue that we were able to accomplish in my term, is to put in the strongest crime-free housing ordinance that we're able to do as a non-home rule community. I was also promoting joint purchasing with our neighboring communities because it gets expensive to run a village. And I'm happy to say that in this last year we have started doing that in Villa Park, purchasing services and with our neighboring communities. I'm also was talking about consolidating of services. And one of my items was consolidating our fire department with our neighboring communities and surrounding communities. And I'm happy to say that that is starting to develop. So that's a number of the things that I had proposed when I first ran, and I have a few more ideas that we'll get to hopefully later on. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Don?
My name is Donald Case. I've been in town for 44 years. Was gone for a little bit, came back. Running again because I enjoy helping the residents out and trying to get things done a little quicker. And they kicked me off the Athletic Booster Club because I don't have no kids there anymore, so I had to do something. So that's basically it.
Okay. Go ahead and Nick.
My name is Nick Cazzone. I'm a 30-year resident of Villa Park. Grew up in Elmhurst and moved in after we got married and figured I'd stay here about 5 years and moved back into Elmhurst, but enjoyed the town for 30 years and decided to run for the board. I have 2 children. My son is 24, went to Willowbrook, graduated Carroll University in Wisconsin. My daughter is a sophomore right now at Valparaiso University. and my wife is an accountant, works downtown. And been active in Villa Park ever since my kids were young, coached baseball, coached soccer. When they got to high school, Don and I were on the athletic booster board for about 6 years and enjoyed that, and feel it's keep on giving back to the community, because it's an excellent community and we'd like to see it keep growing.
Okay. Kathy?
Hi, my name's Kathy Sewell, and it's third on the ballot. It's Catherine Sewell on the ballot. I just wanted you to know a little bit more about me. I've been here in Villa Park with my family for 38 years. My husband always says, well, we bought our starter house, now it's our ender house. So right now I'm retired. I am a former CEO of a personal management group with the American Hospital Association, a membership of about 3,500. So just retired, and am keeping myself busy. Many years, my daughter grew up here many years ago, and we were volunteers in everything at that time. So we really volunteered a lot back then. And Margaret now is currently a U.S. Attorney at the Department of Labor. She's a senior trial attorney and living in Elmhurst. She decided to come back. She had been a federal prosecutor in Washington, D.C. For many years, I was an educator as well. When I did get my MBA, I decided to also teach, and I was adjunct faculty from the institution where I got my degree. And while I was working, and I not only worked in not-for-profits, but in for-profits as well. So what I want to do is give back to the community as well, and I think that the skill sets that I have in budgeting, management, strategic direction, that kind of thing, as far as having the bigger picture in mind as a CEO, I think I could do a good job for the board.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Diane?
Hi, I'm Diane Blair Sherlock. I'm a mom and a local attorney. I moved to Villa Park with my family in 1999. I have a daughter, Shannon, who is a freshman at NIU, go Huskies. I have a son that's a junior at Willowbrook. My kids have gone through the schools in District 45. I've been very active in the community since we moved here. I've been on the Villa Park Community Pride Commission since 2006. I currently serve on 6 boards and commissions, 6 commissions, and 2 nonprofit boards, so that would be 8. However, I've promised my husband that if I were to win this, that I would leave 3 of my commissions. I love Villa Park. That's why I'm doing it. I love this town. I chose to raise my children in this town. I'm very active in this town. I work in this town. As I said, I'm an attorney. I'm on Ardmore Avenue. I actually need to probably get out of Villa Park a little more. But that's why I'm running for the board, because I love Villa Park, and I see this as an extension of everything I've done in town since I moved here. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll start the questions. As a reminder, there will be 2 minutes to answer each question, and both Jen and Kristen will hold up as your time is going down, so you can tell how much time you have left to answer the question. These questions were submitted by our community, and we will not be, again, taking questions from the audience. The first question, and we'll go ahead and start with you, Diane, is what ideas do you have to help attract and retain quality retail businesses and restaurants that will better serve the community and its residents?
Well, I think that part of the problem, perhaps, in attracting quality businesses is that Villa Park has taken a lot of hits in the old reputation department. And we really need to work on the reputation of Villa Park in the community as a whole. Additionally, I do commercial real estate, and a lot of developers feel that Villa Park is a difficult town to work with. They would much rather go to surrounding communities that they believe is easier to work with. So I really think we need to look at that. We need to look at why is it that we have a reputation that may not be what is appealing to them? Why is it that developers find it difficult to come into town? I think that those are critical issues. But additionally, you know, the village needs to work with the Chamber of Commerce, needs to work with the local businesses. There's a lot of longtime local businesses that have been here for decades, and they don't necessarily feel that they're being heard. I think it's very important that the village appreciate the businesses that are here, and let them know that they're listening to them and they're working with them and not necessarily against them. One other thing, and then I'll be done, is that Villa Park has an eat-in tax, okay? And the eat-in tax creates some issues because it hurts local restaurants and it may be discouraging to restaurants coming in town, and I really think we need to look at that. Because when it was originally put out there, it was my understanding it was supposed to be a temporary thing, and it's become permanent, and I really think we need to look at that. I think I'm out of time. Thank you.
Still have time, so good job. We'll go ahead now, and Kathy, if you could answer the same question, please.
Yeah, I'd like to not only just say that we'd like to look at things, I'd like to say, well, let's do something about it and maybe get a focus group together of business owners and people who have been here for a while, and also people who are maybe interested in coming into our town, and really talk about what are the barriers, what are the challenges, what are the opportunities for them, and find out what are the things we can actually put an action plan together on and actually work on it. Very practical way of looking at the problem is to actually ask people for their input. We did that with our master plan for the roads. We got a lot of people's input, got some information. We're able to put a great plan together and move forward with it. One of the things I think is important as well is talking to mall owners and landlords, finding out what they're looking for as far as their businesses. We have a lot of empty retail space. What about talking to them about what we feel would be a good fit for Villa Park? We want to be picky about what we do and what we put into our community. We care about our community, and we care about what businesses come into our community. So I think that dealing with mall owners and landlords and talking to them about what we could create together as an opportunity for them to fill up those empty spaces would be a good idea. And also taking our time and being picky and looking at strategically what we need to do to bring those businesses in. So gathering information, I think, is a good idea, but we also have to have an action plan behind that.
Okay. Same question to you, Nick.
I agree with Diane. I think we need to make the village a little more welcoming to developers coming into the town. I'm an environmental consultant. I deal with developers also, and the ones that I've talked to say it's a difficult process getting into town. It's difficult to deal with some of the requirements that the village has. I think we need to look at that. I think we need to look at our TIF districts. I think we need to make sure that we're using the money accordingly the way it's meant to be used. There's a lot of ways that the law allows you to use TIF money, but are we getting the best benefit out of the TIF districts we have? We're doing good improvements now, but I think we could do a lot more with what we've got. I think we need to promote the better aspects of our town. It's a great town. We have low taxes in the town compared to some of the villages around us. We've got great access to highways here. We've got great land use. I think we need to really tout that. And I think one of the things that we need to do also is to hold our landlords responsible for keeping the properties in good shape. Not only commercial properties, but residential. I think if you drive through the town, we have a lot of rentals in this town, and some of them are not kept up the way they should be. And I think when new people drive through the town, they'll look at that and not be as energetic about coming into the town and developing it as they would in another areas when they see nice well-kept lawns and well-kept houses and buildings.
Okay. John, same question to you.
I agree with everyone else with what they've been saying. In my past 4 years since I've been on the board, the village was really hard to work with, but working with them for permitting, everything else. We've been, since I've been on, we've been making a lot of strides in town. A lot of new businesses have moved into town. You know, one of our biggest goals to this day, I think, should be really to focus on North Avenue and clean it up so it attracts new businesses and restaurants, etc.
Okay. Al?
Yeah, every business in town is a quality and important business to have, and we're glad to have them all. We've worked hard in my last 8 years of bringing businesses to town and plan on continuing to do that. Sometimes we forget where we've come from and what we've done. You know, on North Park Mall, there's a new business in there, Foreman Mills. We've got the Lucky Motors, we've got the Sonic, we've got Bone Roofing on Addison and North Avenue. We have MCC, and Wildfire Harley is going to do a big expansion. this is just some examples of the village working with businesses to come into Villa Park. And we've done, and I can plan and continuing to do that same type of bringing in quality businesses and to incentivize them to come here. If they're a good-sized business and we see 3 million plus in sales from them, we're willing to work with them to make some incentive for them to move into Villa Park. And that has worked out. Some of these businesses, we tend to forget about them, but we're going to keep doing that. Our Economic Development Commission works on bringing businesses to town. Our Economic Development Commissioner goes out to meetings and to conventions, not just around in Chicago, but even working with the Choose the Page to Las Vegas, and not as on the village's dollar, but we split it and a portion with the Choose the Page, and we're there talking to larger retailers to move into Villa Park. But North Avenue has been a challenge, and we're concentrating on building up that area because there's some prime locations there, but it also has some major drawbacks to that corridor. So, but we're working on it, and I think we can continue to do that and see some more examples of what we already have seen move into Villa Park.
Okay, thank you. And we'll finish up this question with you, Chris.
Thanks. The hard part, develop the town. Extremely difficult. It costs massive amounts of money to bring in something you really want. It costs a lot. And a lot, I don't mean 20 million. I'm talking about hundreds of millions. So I went to a developer and said, you know what a great spot would be where Villa Park Bank used to be over on St. Charles Road behind the old Portillo's? A developer should come in there, come to the village and say, you know what, I'll buy that whole block from everybody that lives there. I'll take Salt Creek and I'll develop that as a park. I'm going to put first floor retail on that and some commercial, and I'm going to give you 10 stories or 20 stories or whatever we would give them of senior housing. Ran that by several developers. Every developer said, excellent idea, let me know when you get the $300 million. So it's just so much to do to get someone to come here. But that kind of thing is what we need. And those kind of ideas is what we need. Another very good idea, I think, would be the other end of the spectrum. We need to bring in some younger faces, too, that don't use so much of our facilities for our schools and things. One of the developments we have is at Ardmore Station. That development, what I suggest, we've got a TIF districts over there now. We should be incentivizing our developers who are interested in that area by telling them, look, you keep this as a condominium rather than an apartment complex, we will contribute part of that TIF money to your buyers. So bring in your college graduate buyers. We'll give them 10 grand, 20 grand to pay off their school debt in order to incentivize those young students, graduates, recent graduates, to come into the town, keep the town a little bit vibrant with some young faces, while we still want to try and keep the old faces. There's a whole lot more roads, got to get new roads. All right, I'm done.
Just in time. So for the second question, we'll go ahead and start with you, Kathy.
Okay.
The perception in our community at times is that progress in the town can be stagnant. How would you as a trustee help to hold village employees accountable in order to move forward and make effective change in Villa Park?
Well, the role of the board is really to oversee the work, the village manager. The village manager is the one who oversees the employees. So I would hold the village manager accountable. The village manager is responsible for what the employees do or don't do, and whether or not there's customer service, and whether or not there's 24-hour turnaround. I've always learned as a businesswoman that what gets measured gets done. And I think that if we have some measurements to performance for our employees, I'm not privy to this. There probably are performance metrics that the village manager uses for employees. I would say that if there are some things lacking in employees and customer turnaround and responsiveness and the way things are being done, then I think that he needs to challenge that employee to do better. And then we as a board, who will be getting emails and phone calls and information from our residents complaining about this service or that service. Our goal is to provide excellent service to our residents in a fiscally responsible manner. That's the mission of who we are as a village. So if we're not doing that, we have to hold people accountable. So I would hold the village manager accountable, and I would ensure that metrics are in place. And in the spirit of continuous improvement, I think that, we all could do better, and we would work with him on that.
Okay, great, thanks Kathy. Nick, the same question?
I'd like to review, managers and employee responsibilities, exactly what they're responsible for in their day-to-day operations. I think holding them responsible for what they do is very critical, but I think also we need to get an energetic boost to the employees to make sure that they're looking out for the village. I think things that they can do is when they're meeting residents, just to make sure that they've got a good attitude, they're always responsible, they're responding quickly. I think we need to also put some a little bit of responsibility on them as they're going through the town to make sure that they're looking at things that they possibly are not part of their job. Things like our employees, if they see houses that are dilapidated or lawns that are too long, if they can bring that back to the manager and say, we need to look at this. Because I think most residents' view of city employees are that they're not always 100% behind their job. And I think if we can get an energy with the village employees, starting from the management on down, I think it'll be a lot to keep the village going.
Okay, thank you. Don, same question?
Well, if things aren't moving forward or at all or not where they should be, as a village trustee, I would look into matters and see if the individual is doing her or his job, or is the right fit for his or her job. So,
Right. Al?
Well, the position of the board is to encourage and oversee how the village manager operates the village. It's his responsibility to evaluate each employee's performance, and then we evaluate his performance. Now, I know that we've made some changes in the last few years. We've gotten some department heads have been replaced, and we have new ones on board. Hopefully that we have seen some improvement in how with employee relations with when citizens call in, because citizens are their bosses. They're their customers. So we've had the employees go through a training process to make sure that they know how to do it, and they should be evaluated by the manager at that time. It's one way we can evaluate. Well, doing like Chris's thing, let's go back a little bit about the housing in Villa Park, and I agree we need some more diversified housing for senior citizens, and we have done a study on paid for with a grant what kind of housing we need in Villa Park for the future, because people get older and then they have to move out of town, and we don't want them to do that. We want them to stay because we need young people and old people and middle-aged people. We need diversity in town. So we're working on that. We're setting up plans for the future to see what we really have to concentrate on. And staff then will be responsible to see that happens. And it's our job to evaluate their performance.
Chris?
I got to pick up on that too. So I'll come back to the manager thing. In my perspective, you need to have old people because you guys have all the money. So you need old people in town because they've got lots of money. You need young people because they don't use your facilities. So you need to encourage both of those entities to be in your town. Pardon my French if it's not quite as eloquent as Al's. Al's an excellent speaker. Back to the manager. On the manager side, I tell you what, this manager, I understand that I had a very difficult time with this manager to start with. A very difficult time. And I think he and I have come around to each other to some extent. He demands that we evaluate it. And we're brutally honest, some of us, on what we write in our evaluations. He's had some troubles with, and we all have defects in our personalities that we don't see how we're being perceived. And I think he's at least willing to work on that. So my perception of this job is We manage the manager, he manages everybody else. I don't want to go to the building inspector to find out what is he doing. That's his job. If I'm doing that, then change the form of government, make someone village president that actually has, or a mayor, and get rid of a manager, just have an assistant or a sub-manager. So we're not going to do it that way. Let's just leave it the way it is. Keep it as a manager. Keep the manager going the way he is. He's got us in a position where our staff is the best staff that I've seen in this village in the time that I've lived here. So he's done an excellent job of recruiting some real talent. It takes time to get government changed because you can't just fire people willy-nilly. It takes time to move people out. You got to prove that you could justify that movement. I got a whole lot more on that, so talk to me later.
We'll have to stop you there. So, Diane, same question?
I have to look at it again. They
Oh,
got
sure,
a
no,
little
I can
tangential.
ask it again, that's fine.
That's the question.
The perception in our community at times is that progress in town can be stagnant. How would you, as a trustee, help to hold village employees accountable in order to move forward and make Villa Park effective change in Villa Park?
Gotcha. Thank you. Yes, we are a managerial form of government, and there's actually a chart online of how our government is set up. And I think it's important to understand that the board is answerable, has to answer to the people because you elect the people to the board, okay? So it's very important to understand that it's the people, the board, then the village manager. Now, the board is a part-time board. We all have, well, we don't all, but a lot of us have full-time jobs. So we can't micromanage the day-to-day operations of the village. That has to be done by the village manager. However, we could hold the village manager accountable. I think certainly, doing evaluations, but also with the budgets, okay? I think budgeting is very important, and compensation of department heads is a way to handle it as well. When you're looking at the different departments and how they're functioning on a yearly basis, what you do with respect to compensation in that budget is key. It's critical. And now I'm going to get a little tangential and say, would absolutely love to see some senior housing come into town. It's a big problem in this entire area. I think senior housing would be a wonderful asset to Villa Park, and I would really love to see that be some of the progress that we're not having. Thank you.
Move on to our third question, and we'll start with you, Nick. How do you see yourself ensuring the integrity, transparency, and reduction of conflicts of interest regarding village business?
I think the board has to work with the village manager on contracts that are dealt out, on major contracts. I think, like everyone has said already, we're not going to micromanage our village manager, but I think we need to be involved in some of the major contracts that are let out. Transparency being, how are our bids being dealt out? How are they accepted? Are we always taking low bids? Are we looking at things like past performance by different companies? I think we definitely need to have a checks and balance where there's not one person that's always letting out the bids. We have to review the process on that. And I think we need to know of any conflicts of interest of anybody on the board or on the in our village, be it managers, be it the village manager, or be it police or fire, on any kind of contracts that are out. We need to know of any kind of conflicts of interest. Possibly getting into things like ethics on either written ethics policies with our employees.
Okay. Don, the same question?
I agree with Nick on a lot of stuff, but at this time, I'm not really aware of any conflicts of interest regarding any village business right now.
Okay.
So,
All right. Al, the same question?
You have a conflict of interest. One of the forms we fill out when we run for a trustee is as a economic interest statement. And if there is any conflict of interest, that should show up on that statement, which is filed with the county clerk. Now, as far as transparency, when I started on this board, our transparency was not too good. We were scored very low by the Illinois Policy Institute. But then in 2012, I think it was, we upped our score to B, not to A to an F. We got a B, and I looked as today, and our score, recent score at the end of 2013, we were at about 94.7%. So that's quite an increase that we've made underneath our new manager and underneath our current board, and I think that we continue to do that. So that's something that we're all interested in, and everything's on the website. So I think that's we should be proud of that. We still have a little ways to go. We could get up to 100% and get an A+, but we're working on the transparency issue. So.
Okay, thank you. Chris?
For my part, I think when I first got on the board and I had that dilemma with how to handle a certain situation with the village manager, where it was very difficult. Even though you have that disagreement, when you're up here, that disagreement doesn't have to turn into a nightmare like it did on those boards that Al ran against in order to stop that from happening. And I think the current board does a good job, and what I'd like to do is just encourage the current board and the future board to make sure that they control the reactions that they have, because there's times when people say something, you're thinking, what is that guy talking about? He's got to be the brain dead right now. Or you say something, you stick your foot in your mouth. And if we can just make sure that we convey the appearance that we want our village to have, so when people look into this town, they don't think, oh God, is it like that board that they had back in '87 or '98 or whatever year it might have been? No offense to those boards. The critical thing is the board needs to convey the message that the village needs to convey to the rest of the world.
Okay, thank you. Diane?
Okay, I'm sorry. He cracks me up. Okay. I think I'm not aware of any conflicts of interest either. I actually was asking around, does anybody know of any conflicts I'm unaware of? But just to point out, I have training, as does any attorney, in ethics and in conflicts of interest. Additionally, I had to undergo training on the state board that I sit on. And I'm acutely aware of the problems that arise in conflicts of interest and would obviously personally make sure that that didn't happen. I could, lose my license over something like that. However, I have seen board members, when they believe they have a conflict of interest, abstain from voting, and that's the appropriate thing to do. So I don't think, at least at the board level, that's a problem. I think that we should certainly make sure that we know who the principals are of the companies that we're doing business with, to make sure that there isn't a problem with our, employees or department heads. And if we don't have a policy, we need to look at maybe creating a policy so that it doesn't happen in the future. Perception is everything. And as I started, earlier, our village's reputation is critical to our future. And it's important that we don't even create the slightest perception of conflicts or of lack of integrity. Thank you.
Thank you. And Catherine?
Well, there's a lot to say about conflict of interest, because I think that if the village continues to see itself practicing fairly, I think that we avoid conflicts of interest. I think that every board member needs to be above reproach when it comes to contract negotiations with the village manager does all of that, but I think that having somebody or doing a pay-to-play kind of situation is really something that would be unethical. And so every person who shoots for getting elected to the board should be someone who is beyond reproach and should have integrity and ethics. I don't think you can, I think that there's some training you could have in ethics as far as but I think that you're growing up and in being in the right family will show you how to be an ethical person, and knowing right from wrong is important. And really sticking to your guns. If you're the only member on the board who sees things as wrong, and everybody else is going that way, you have to stick to what you believe is ethically correct. So I think that too with the contract negotiations, my concern there would be bidding and making sure that everyone has a fair shot at bids for our larger projects especially, and being sure that we are diverse in our bidding as well, and making sure women get a chance, different minorities get a chance to bid on our projects as well.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question, and Don, this is for you. I'll start with you.
Well, it's a tough one because,
Oh, wait, I didn't ask you yet.
Oh, I already know the question though.
ESP, he's good.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'll wait.
That's okay. What is your perception of how much of your time and energy will be spent if elected or re-elected to the village board?
I'll start again. It's a tough one. As far as time goes, it differs every week. Situations that go on, emails, text messages, sitting down with the manager, police chief, department heads, just to talk about situations. You'll be in Jewel. My wife will be 10 aisles ahead of me. I'll still be on aisle 1 talking to somebody. It's really hard. It's whatever it takes to solve the problem and get the right answer to the person who's asking it, the resident, whoever.
Okay,
So,
great. Al?
It can take a lot of time. You're going to do as good a job as depending on how much time you put in. Between attending commission meetings, attending ribbon cuttings for new businesses, budget meetings, board meetings, just all kinds of things can go on. Well, about a year and a half ago, one resident asked me about how much time do you spend on it. So, okay, I took it on myself. I'm going to make a little log here and see exactly how much time I spend on this. It can vary anywhere between 10 hours a week, or my high was 27 hours a week. So it depends on what you want to put in. And my opinion, if you're running for this office and you want to do the job right and serve the residents of the community the best of your ability, you're going to have to spend a lot of time on it. I'm fortunate to do that because I don't have any little kids at home. I don't have any baseball games or basketball games to go to. But if I was a young father, it'd be really tough if you want to do a good job. So I would say anywhere between the time 10 to 20, 25 hours a week.
Chris?
Unfortunately, I think Gal's right, because 4 to 6 is not enough. And I can see that probably 4 to 6 is about an average week that I put in. And it should take 10, but it's not going to happen from here. So that's why I need Al. So make sure you vote for Al. Because I rely on Al to make sure I can ask him questions about the budget that I'm not reading quite as thoroughly as Al is. So make sure you vote for Al.
That's embarrassing.
I apologize for that. It does take quite a bit of work. So then there are weeks when, everybody up here, I'm sure, would dedicate an appropriate amount of time to the effort. No one well, unless you've lost your mind, gets onto this position without realizing that there's going to be a significant amount of time that they're going to have to spend with it. I mean, I know Don met with Bill Mueller from Lombard with the village manager, and they spent time just to try to figure out how do we make this permitting process go longer. I mean, how many times that's happened, I don't know. But there's lots of time like that where it's not just getting ready for a meeting, it's not just reading whatever staff has sent you to read for that week in order to vote and have some idea what you're voting on. It's trying to move stuff forward that you need or you feel is appropriate. And there's sometimes when you feel like, God, I really want this to get through. I really want the village manager to pay attention to this problem. and you have to go bug him. And that's what really takes the time. But you're a minimum of 4 to 6 hours a week just to get through the stuff you read every week.
Okay, thank you.
And that doesn't count the trips to Springfield.
I'm trying to avoid those.
Oh, okay.
All right, Diane, same question to you about the perception of how much of your time and energy would be spent if elected to the board.
Well, I would say that Elle's probably right, and that's one of the reasons why earlier on I said that I'd have to leave at least 3 of the commissions that I serve on. I already devote, probably 30 plus hours a week to the community in one capacity or another, so it's nothing new to me. And luckily, I have an office here. I'm self-employed. I'm not as busy as some other self-employed attorneys in town because I choose not to be, because I like to devote a lot of my time to volunteer work. And I really see this as an extension of my volunteer work. So I would say that, 20 to 30 hours a week on a bad week would probably be realistic.
Okay. Kathy?
Well, I think that when you serve and you have a commitment, you need to invest the time. And gladly, I'm retired, and I'll be able to invest the time and the energy, as much time as needed to get the job done, to listen to residents, to be able to read the board material, to be able to plow through the budget and make some good decisions for the board. So I think that investing in the position that you're going to be elected for is really important. And being able to make that commitment and being sure you're going to be able to do it is really important, because the residents are depending on you to be here and to be respectful to them. I think coming in late to the meetings, not showing up at the meetings, not being interested in the meetings, not preparing for the meetings, does a great disservice to our residents. So I'm not going to be that kind of board member. I'm going to be the kind of board member that's interested and respects the residents and will take time and invest my time and energy to the position.
Okay, thank you. And Nick, we'll finish this question with you.
I'm glad Al brought that up about not having young kids, because I see a lot of gray hair up on the board, so everybody must be spending a lot of time on it. But I can agree with everybody. Once you make the commitment to be on the board, you really have to give whatever time is necessary. As a small business owner, I do that all the time. There's times when you have to spend the whole day someplace. But I feel being a new person on the board, if elected, the initial first couple of months would probably be the most time consuming, getting to know the village, getting the village board, getting involved with the village personnel, and then after that getting into that 10 or 15 or 20 hour a week, or whatever it takes. If there's weeks you have to spend 30 hours, you'll do that for the betterment of the community.
Okay, thank you. We'll go on to the next question, and we'll start with you, Al. Seeing as Parks and Recreation generates revenue, what do you see are priorities for improvement and enhancement of our programs and facilities?
Well, you are correct. Parks and Rec do generate some revenue for the village, not enough to cover all their expenses, so there is some transfer from the corporate fund to help sustain those programs. Let's be honest, the park buildings are old, they're tired, they need to be refurbished, and right now we're evaluating, have a firm evaluating what are the needs of our park buildings and the recreation facilities. Staff is always, and we're evaluating what new programs. One program I thought would be kind of nice to have. If you bring your child to daycare and you run off somewhere to a fitness center in the meantime, why not have the fitness center right there at the park? So you can drop your child off and you just go down a room or two and there's a fitness center there. I thought that would be kind of a nice idea, something like that. Another thing, our pools are getting old, and one of the reasons why we formed the train station TIF area goes all the way down to the swimming pool. So when those apartments are built along the train station, hopefully soon, the increased assessed valuation will be able to use some of that TIF money to improve the parks and the swimming pool areas. And the same way with the Lions Park. we did the same thing. We created a TIF there, which is right next to the Ovaltine TIF, which is very profitable. And we can use some of that money to redo the community center there, which we're already right now in the process of evaluating to improve that area and to improve that building. So the ball is starting to roll with our village manager, and I think we're heading in the right direction for some enhancements and improvements at the parks.
Okay, thank you. Chris, the same question?
I pick up on Al's. It's, in his 3.5 years that Manager Keener's been here, we've talked, we've sat in long Saturday meetings where we gave our wish lists and then consolidated those and broke them down. And eventually, some of the things we wished for take, again, a massive amount of money. So we wish to do a new pool. We wish to do the type of facility that a park district should have, where you've got a hub like Glendale Heights has, or you've got some facility that's significant enough to accommodate some nominal needs that we have, that we're fulfilling right now, but then some significant needs that would be nice to fulfill, and we should be able to fulfill at least some of them, so that you can do, maybe you can't do a massive baseball field complex along with a soccer field and football field complex, because we don't have an open space anymore to be able to do that. But you can still go grab enough money out of one of these TIFs eventually to do a pool associated with a building. The building has a fitness center in it. It has to get rid of the Iowa Community Center and knock it down and raise the thing. We need a massive upgrade in the facilities. It would be very nice to have. It's not happening anytime soon, unfortunately, in spite of the fact that we've done a good job up to this point in the 3.5 years that Keener's been here to put ourselves in a financially sound position so that you can now, when you have opportunities like when the Ardmore fuel went for sale, we talked about trying to buy it. It was cheap. We should have bought it. We didn't have any money to buy it. Now we're in a position maybe we could have done that if that happens now. So,
Okay, thank you. Diane?
I really like both of their wish lists, but as Chris pointed out, funds are a little tight here. Parks and Rec is close to break even, but we do have to supplement it a little bit. I think for the immediate future, we need to maintain the pools, because I don't see us being able to do a big pool complex, at least right away. I know that they're doing a study, and once that study gets done, we'll get direction from the people of the village, which is what we really want to do. I would also like to see, this is just, and this wouldn't cost a lot of money, I'd like to see some more programming for teens. A lot of the programs that are offered for teens in Parks and Rec are one-offs, so it's a one-day thing. It's not a program where it's every Wednesday for a couple of months. There's only a couple of programs like that. I don't think there's enough programming for teens, and I'd like to see that get better.
Okay. Kathy, the same question?
Well, I think with Parks and Rec, it's really interesting. I've been to the meetings for the master planning, and a lot of great public participation. The residents really are, very enthused about moving this along and putting their wishes together for, the master plan. So it's on a good track, I think. A couple of things. I agree with Diane on the teens. I think that we should have more after-school programs for teens. I think that would be very helpful for the moms who are working and worrying about their teens and what they're doing. And also, just, I think generally what I got out of the 5 meetings I attended was the modernization. People are thinking about all the old facilities, the pools, the playgrounds, the parks, everything needs to be upgraded. And I think modernization is the biggest thing that'll cost us the money that we're talking about. And so the master plan, if we do it the way we did it with the roads, I think that, taking time, doing town halls, doing newsletters, involving the people, ensuring that we, get our priorities straight on what could come first. Having a 65-year-old pool doesn't help, So I think that maybe focusing on the pools first might be a good idea. But prioritizing and strategically looking at how we're going to spend our money is going to be really important for the future.
Thank you. Nick?
Pretty much agree with everybody. I think we definitely need to look at the pools, because I think that's going to be our major impetus for Parks and Rec. But I think we also need to look at what our fees are. You know, how much money are we getting out of the pools? How much are we putting into it? Some of the programs that the parks have, are they worthwhile? Do we have enough attendance at them to make it worthwhile? Maybe we can cut some of those. I agree also. I think, you know, the teens in this town are always complaining that there's nothing to do, and I think Parks and Rec, if they have more programs, if we give them something to do, you know, get kids that aren't involved with school sports or school activities, give them something else to do.
Okay. And then Don, we'll wrap up this question with you.
Good thing about going last, 'cause everybody just said everything I wanted to say. Pools are number one, and it's our job to help try and find the money for it. I mean, my wish list would be to build one big swimming pool, one in, one out, fitness center, daycare, everything. And through conversation, I have talked to people who are serious investors in to do something like that. So there would be money coming, you know, help. But go along with everybody else. Pools are number one on my list.
Okay. Now we come to our final question, and we'll go ahead and start with Chris. What ideas do you have when it comes to bringing together our increasingly diverse community?
Oh, I win on that one, because I grew up here in Villa Park, right? 140 West Adams, grew up there from the time I was 6 months old. But interestingly enough, we had a tavern on the west side of Chicago. So when I went to grade school and finished that and got to high school eventually, in high school, I was the crazy dago from the west side. But down in the city, where we had our tavern, I was the punk kid from the suburbs. It was very interesting. And that neighborhood that we had that tavern, it's 4211 West Division. It's bad West Side now. It's tough West Side. It was brutal West Side when we had the tavern by the time we sold it. And from about 68 to 80, it was what everyone had thought it always would be. And then from 80 to 2000, it completely changed. Very difficult to understand people, to cooperate with people, but you'll learn as you get into that situation that everyone basically has the same needs. Everybody has the same predispositions. And I don't mean that every single person has exactly the same predispositions. Some people are predisposed to believe people are bad, some people are predisposed to believe people are good. That's true in any community. No matter where you're at, no matter what the socioeconomic scale is, that's going to happen. The really interesting part of having worked there for 20 years, including when I became a lawyer, I still had to go down there. It was so terrible. Was you learned to not just understand people, but to start feeling what they're feeling, to perceive what they're perceiving. And you need to be able to do that in order to learn how to cooperate with other people in the world. You can't just get mad because the position's different, because they don't even you can't even fathom what the thought is sometimes. I mean, I hear people talk these days, you know, how do people in Ferguson say that the guy got shot 6 times in the back when there are no shots in the back? But there's a perception, and there's a reason why the lady wants to say
All
it
right,
that way.
we have to wrap that up. Okay, we'll go ahead to Diane.
Oh.
Same question.
Okay. Well, I have to say that I'm going to make a shameless plug here. We need commissioners, and I think that it's really important that people get involved. And in order to best serve the diversity in our community, we need more diversity in our village government. We need more diversity on our commissions. If you go on to invillapark.com, you can look at the various commissions. There are great opportunities to volunteer in the community, come out to local events, meet people, and we would really love to see some more people coming from different areas of Villa Park becoming involved in the community and becoming involved in commissions. everything tends to come out of the south side, and there's always been a dichotomy in Villa Park between the south side and the north side. And I think we need to work on erasing that. And I think that we need to encourage involvement. And I think we need to look at even our own staffing and how diverse is our staffing. And I think that we need to work on that a little bit, on being more open and welcoming to that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kathy?
Well, I was looking into what the village currently does as far as diversity in the government and municipality. And one of the things we do have is a translator button on our website, so we can translate in different languages, the website information. Secondly, you know, the HR department does training in diversity for the village. And the other thing is that some of the things we should really be considering are, what do other communities do? What do other villages do to increase diversity? Perhaps we need, instead of diversity on each commission, maybe we need a diversity commission that can gather tools and resources and understanding so that we can then move forward with having it permeate through the village. Demographics have changed, and we embrace all. All are welcome, and all should feel welcome in our community. So having what we already have and building on that, looking at various communities like the church community, the school districts for more understanding and resources and education. The library has a diversity program in the summer for kids. There's all kinds of opportunity within our village that we already have. The thing is, how do we gather that information in and create some new opportunities for diversity? And I think one of the neat things that we could do is have a diversity commission that could bring that all together and create some new ideas with it.
Okay, thanks, Kathy. Nick, the same question to you.
I definitely agree with Diane. I think this has to be more of a grassroots. I think the board itself can help that along, but it has to come from the community. We have outreach to all the different nationalities in the town, but until those people start to use that the opportunities that they have, we'll never get the diversity. I think right now everybody on the board lives south of St. Charles Road, or at least south of the tracks. There's very little input on the north side, except one, sorry. But it's a difficult situation. It's something that the whole nation is battling right now. You know, with the situation in Ferguson, the situation in Madison, it's such a. But until the community can get together, it's a difficult thing. And I think working, like Kathy said, working with the church groups, working with the school groups would be a way to start.
Okay. Don, the same question to you.
There's various things around the towns that like the fish fries, pancake breakfasts. You know, Lombard just canceled their fest, so I would intend to keep Summerfest going in Villa Park. You know, and agree with everybody else. Just keep plugging along on everything else. Keep everybody going.
Okay. And then the final answer of the night then would go to you, Al, about how you would help to bringing our increasingly diverse community together.
Usually when we go to the last go around at the village board, they ask if we have anything. I usually say no, but I have something on this. You know, I was highlighting and drawing the circle around bring together. How do we bring together the different parts of town? You know, as long as I've been in Villa Park, there's been the north side and there's been the south side. And like was mentioned, you look at the boards up here, generally it's south side. You look at the members on the commissions, it's generally south side. I think we have to spend more effort reaching out to the north side of town and to get people on the north side involved in the community. Now, north side, I'm referring to north of the railroad tracks. So, put you on the south side, Bob, I'm sorry. So, you know, one way to do it, you know, when you look at all the festivals and everything we have, it's south. Why? People from the north side aren't going to come down to the south side. It's a nice area, it's convenient, it's easy to do things along the Prairie Path in Lions Park, but we have to make an effort to reach out to the north side. We could have some festivals on the north side. We could do it in the parking lot for the metro station. You know, there's a place. We could do it at the park behind the Target. So it is possible. Another thing, you know, I'm usually in church on Sunday mornings. Once a year, in my churches in Elmhurst, they have a joint service with any church in Elmhurst who wants to do a joint service in the parking lot on 2nd Street, right in the middle of town. And there's hundreds of people there, every part of Elmhurst. That's when we mentioned we could reach out to the religious community in Villa Park. Why can't we do that? You know, have one joint service. If your church wants to attend, fine. If they don't, that's okay too. We're sorry we're going to miss you. But it gives an opportunity for everybody to come together in one spot. Between that and some festivals on the north side, I think that would go a long way.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
We'd like to thank all of the trustee candidates for being here tonight, and we'll remind everyone in the room and who's watching that there are 4 trustees running for 3 spots, and that is Chris Aiello, Al Bultis, Donald Case, and Bradley Phillips, who is not with us this evening. And then we also have 3 trustees running for the unexpired 2-year term, and those trustees are Diane Blair Sherlock, Nick Kazone, and Kathy Sewell. So thank you again, all of you, for being here this evening. And thank you to all the residents of Villa Park and family and friends of candidates for coming tonight. And for those of you watching at home, we're happy to help you and everyone in Villa Park make informed choices in the upcoming election. And if you have further questions about the Villa Park Junior Women's Club, we encourage you to visit our website, www.vpjwc.org, or search for the Villa Park Junior Women's Club on Facebook. And now I will make a shameless plug for our Kentucky Derby party. So I was told to hold this in front of my face so it can get on the camera. So we have a Kentucky Derby party coming up on Saturday, May 2nd. And it's a fundraiser that we're raising money for our club. And as many of you know, we raise funds for a scholarship to a female high school senior in Villa Park. And I think it's up there.
It's up there.
Yep. And for other community organizations and activities and families throughout Villa Park. So we'd love to have you join us again on May 2nd at the Derby Party. You can buy tickets from any member of the Junior Women's Club, and soon we'll have a link on our Facebook page and on our website. Oh, you can buy them right now to buy tickets if you know anyone in town who'd like to join. So thank you, everybody, for joining. Good luck in the election, and we hope everyone has a good evening.
Thank you.